The hum of the airplane engines was steady, almost hypnotic, but for Daniel Hayes, it was just another reminder that he hadn't slept in nearly 40 hours. His crisp suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, and the glow of his laptop screen painted tired shadows across his face. As the CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country, Daniel had built an empire from scratch, but at the cost of his peace, his relationships, and, lately, his joy. He barely noticed when the flight attendant asked if he wanted water. He barely noticed anything anymore. All he cared about was closing the next deal, launching the next product, proving to the world, and maybe to himself, that he was worth something. As he typed furiously on his laptop, a small, clear voice interrupted. "Excuse me, sir." Daniel looked up, startled. In the seat next to him was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8, with big brown eyes and 2 messy braids. She was holding a stuffed bunny, and her legs dangled above the floor. "You look tired," she said softly, tilting her head. He blinked, unsure how to respond. No one had spoken to him like that in years, gently, honestly, without wanting something in return. "I'm fine," he muttered, eyes darting back to the screen. The girl studied him for a moment. "My mom says when people say they're fine, it means they're not." That made him pause. He let out a faint laugh, half amusement, half disbelief. "Your mom sounds very smart." "She was," the little girl replied, looking down at her bunny. "She's in heaven now." Daniel froze. "Oh," he said quietly, unsure what else to say. "I'm sorry." The girl smiled, a small, sad smile. "It's okay. Daddy says she's watching over us. He says when we're tired, we should rest, because that's when angels whisper to us." Her words hit him harder than he expected. Rest. Angels whisper. He couldn't remember the last time he had truly rested, or listened to anything other than the constant noise of his own ambition. For the first time, he closed his laptop. They talked through the flight, the little girl, Lily, telling him about her school, her favorite books, and how her dad made her pancakes shaped like stars every Sunday. She asked him questions too, innocent and curious. "Do you have kids?" "No," Daniel said. "Never had time." "That's sad," she said bluntly, but not cruelly. "You'd be a good dad, I think." He smiled faintly. "Why do you think that?" "Because you listened," she said simply. "Most grown-ups don't." Her words stuck with him long after the flight landed. When they parted ways at baggage claim, Lily waved and shouted, "Don't forget to rest, sir." He smiled, lifted a hand in return, and then she disappeared into the crowd with her father. For a while, he assumed that was the end of it. Just a random encounter on a long flight. But life, he would soon learn, had other plans. 2 weeks later, Daniel's assistant rushed into his office. "Sir, your father's been taken to the hospital. It's serious." His world tilted. Daniel hadn't spoken to his father in years. Their last conversation had ended in shouting, his father telling him that he'd lost himself to greed, Daniel screaming that he was just doing what it took to survive. But as he stood there in his corner office, overlooking the city he'd conquered, all Daniel felt was regret. He left everything, meetings, deadlines, investors, and drove straight to the hospital. His father was frail, pale, barely conscious. When Daniel took his hand, the old man's eyes flickered open. "Danny," he whispered, voice cracked with age. "You look tired." The same words, the same gentle truth, and in that moment, Daniel broke. He wept, really wept, for the first time in years. For all the moments he'd missed, the people he'd hurt, the boy he used to be. After his father passed away peacefully a week later, Daniel took a leave from work. He went home, not to his penthouse, but to his childhood town, to the small house his parents had left behind. There, among old photos and dusty books, he found a letter his father had written but never sent. It read, "Son, I know you're chasing success, but I hope you don't forget to chase joy, too. Life isn't about how far you climb, it's about who's still holding your hand when you get there." Tears blurred the words. That night, Daniel sat on the porch, watching the sunset. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking about the next quarter or the next deal. He was just being. And then, as if by fate, he heard laughter. He looked up, and there she was. Lily, the little girl from the plane, running down the sidewalk with her bunny in hand. Her father followed behind, smiling warmly. "Lily," Daniel called out, disbelief coloring his voice. She turned, eyes lighting up. "You're the tired man from the plane." He laughed, and for the first time, it didn't sound hollow. Over time, Daniel became close to Lily and her father, Mark, a widowed schoolteacher. They'd invite him for Sunday dinners, and sometimes, he'd read stories to Lily before bed. Slowly, the walls around his heart began to crumble. One evening, Lily asked him, "Do you feel better now?" He nodded. "Yeah, I think I do. You look less tired," she said with a grin. He chuckled. "That's because I finally learned how to rest." She tilted her head. "Did the angels whisper to you?" He smiled softly. "Yeah, they did. One of them had pigtails and a bunny." Months passed. Daniel eventually returned to his company, but he wasn't the same man. He changed the culture of his business, giving employees mental health days, flexible hours, and time to be with their families. He started a foundation in memory of his father, and in honor of a little girl named Lily, to help children who'd lost parents find mentorship and support. During a press interview, a reporter asked him, "Mr. Hayes, what inspired this change?" Daniel smiled thoughtfully and said, "A little girl on a plane once told me I looked tired. I didn't realize until then that I wasn't just tired, I was lost. She reminded me what matters most." Years later, Lily, now a teenager, would introduce Daniel as her honorary uncle when she graduated. And as she gave her speech, she said, "Sometimes, the people who change our lives aren't the ones we plan to meet. Sometimes, they're just the ones who remind us to listen when the world gets too loud." Daniel stood in the crowd, eyes shining with pride. Because she was right. The little girl on the plane had changed his life forever, not by giving him advice or money or power, but by giving him something he'd forgotten how to find: hope.